Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be checking on my beehives, on our beehives. We extracted honey last week, about 10 kilos, and this week is just a little checkup. And while I'm doing this, I wanted to talk to you about the reason why you should make your life harder, not easier, and why easiness, the kind of like aim to make life always easier, might not actually be working in your favor. So that's an interesting topic, I think. I hope you find it interesting as well. I'm all suited up, ready to get into these bees. I'm very new to beekeeping. My stepdad bought 4 hives randomly, and we got to kind of play with them on our land. So we put them on our land, and now we're beekeepers, and we've had a beekeeper come out and show us twice what we should be looking for. So we kind of have a little bit of an idea, but still very much novice at this. But I'm excited. I've really enjoyed interacting with the bees and learning new skills and learning it from the bees. And they're just such fascinating creatures as well. So I'm excited to get into them. I'm not brave enough to go in not suited up, even though our bees are very calm. I haven't been stung yet, and I'm not looking forward to the day that I do get stung. But apparently you don't have arthritis when you get stung, so that's a bonus. But yeah, all right, let's get into some bees. Check out all this honey. Lots and lots of honey on both sides. I'm so excited because I just spotted a queen by myself, and it's such a meditative thing. Like, I've heard a lot of beekeepers say it, but it really is so meditative. And when I spotted that queen, it was just like, whoa, that was amazing. So yeah, this is really cool. I'm really happy I'm doing this. It is so much fun. I think the bees tried to kill me to start with, but my smoker isn't working properly, so I couldn't really smoke them and kind of calm them down a bit. But I'll show you inside the hive. Okay, so let's talk about why you should be making your life harder and not easier. Well, I mean, it depends on the situation, but there's 3 points that I want to share with you today. And there's this myth and this kind of idea in society that we go by that tells us that we should be trying to make our life so much easier. You know, the easier the life, the better the life. And what I have found by making my life harder is that choosing strategically to make certain parts of my life harder has given me a higher quality life, a lot more happiness, and a sense of accomplishment. So for example, you know, we've created a system of agriculture, so not everyone has to grow their own food, and you know, we can just go to the supermarket and buy the food. There's also, you know, cars that were invented so we can get to places faster and can go further distances. But with every single decision that we make to make our lives easier with every single one of those changes to kind of like the old lifestyles, there is a consequence. There is a consequence to every single action that we take. So for example, with agriculture, by choosing to do massive scale commercial farms, the consequence of that is that, you know, people just go to the supermarket and are totally disconnected from where their food comes from. And they don't know how food grows, and people are becoming more and more disconnected from nature, because when you're growing your own food, you have to know about the soil, you need to pay attention to the weather, you need to pay attention to what you're planting, all these things. The bugs, the insects, the birds, they all form a system, an ecosystem for you to grow your food in. And the farmers know all this, but people in cities and that simply shop at supermarkets have forgotten this, and I was one of those people. And that's why I'm creating this video, because it was this idea that every time we try to make life easier, it's not always for the better. When we're obviously disconnected from nature, then we're not going to respect her as much, and then we're surprised when nature kicks our asses, for example. And also, a disconnection from nature means a disconnection from the cycle of life and death. It means a disconnection from the laws of this planet, because this planet, you know, human laws are one thing, they're all made up, blah blah blah, but the laws of this planet don't change. They are here, and we live according to the laws of this planet. So when we become disconnected from nature, we become disconnected from the laws of this planet, and then we can get ungrounded within ourselves and start thinking up a whole heap of ideas of, you know, ways that we can control nature, that, how we can manipulate the weather, how we can do all these things, and we don't pay attention to the laws of nature and the laws that we're actually living by on this planet. So, consequences. Each time that we try to make our lives easier, there is a consequence to that. So, for example, I thought that having a solely internet business, if I can make money off a solely internet business, then, you know, I'll have all this free time and I'll just be so much happier. But now the lesson that I'm learning with going broke, and I created a video 2 videos down, check it out on my channel, on how I've gone broke and have gotten back out into the community, doing gardening, doing paid house sitting, now getting a job at a goat dairy and a cow dairy. And that has taught me the value of, you know, constantly moving my body. My body is getting fitter, my body is getting stronger, my mindset is clearing up more. I feel more connected to the people in my community. I'm interacting with humans more. I'm getting out in nature and exploring more. So I thought I was making my life easier by solely having an internet business, but I was actually making my life harder because I was becoming more sedentary. I've been putting on weight. Now I'm losing weight. I was getting more unhealthy. I was getting disconnected from humans, from my fellow humans, from my community, and just, you know, not moving my body and as much as I should. Of course, I have my embodiment practices, but our bodies are designed to not just have practices, but to participate in this reality. We're supposed to participate in this world around us every single day. So if we're not doing that, then we're not experiencing life to the fullest. So by making my life harder, I have gained so much, and now I'm kind of thinking, sure, I want to have the online business as well, because if I want to travel, that gives me that freedom, and if I don't want to work somewhere, I can always just do my own thing and, you know, have that freedom. But at the same time, I also want to be constantly participating in the world and participating in this reality, you know, being face to face with my fellow humans, with people in the community, learning new skills, using my hands, using my body and seeing what it's capable of, how strong it can get, how healthy I can be. So that's an example of how easier isn't always better. And every single decision that we make in regards to wanting to have an easier life. So for example, switching from dumb phones to smartphones, where we have all the information at our fingertips, and, you know, making it easier to communicate with people on social media. While yes, it's easier to find your people on social media, it is not necessarily healthy to be constantly scrolling. The consequence of having a smartphone is the addiction to smartphones and constantly scrolling, constantly being on these devices, being exposed to blue lights. Or even just, you know, a simple example like getting in the car, buying a car when you've been walking and using public transport. In one way it might make your life easier, but then you're also taking away having to walk to places, having to move your body to get to places. So you're losing that aspect of fitness with the car, and then there's the consequence of needing to pay more money and all of that kind of stuff. So every single choice that we make to supposedly live an easier life has a consequence. And just what I want you to think about is, how have you made your life easier, or how has society told you to make your life easier and you've implemented it, but what consequence has that had on your life? What did it subtract from your life? What did it take away from your life that actually was serving you? Another example of this is, you know, having Uber Eats or all these food delivery services. That's one thing that I noticed being in the city, is that, and coming to the country, the first thing that I noticed, I was like, oh no, we don't have Uber Eats here anymore. And I had to go out and shop for my food and make sure I knew when the shops were open, because they're not open 24/7. And I had to really think about where I was getting my food, I started cooking more, I started looking at produce more. And now I'm so happy that we don't have Uber Eats here. I hardly ever eat out, especially while I'm on the Candida diet, but I hardly ever eat out anyway. And that convenience of having food delivered to my door made me not pay attention. It only made me pay attention to the taste and how much I was getting, instead of the quality of the food. Where is the food grown? Are they using any sprays and chemicals on the food? Is it organic? Is it not organic? What oils are they cooking with? You know, what are they putting in the food? Now that I've started cooking for myself a lot more, I'm aware of what I'm putting in my body, and even though I've been putting on weight, I'm still eating a lot healthier food. So that's kind of another consequence that equals, you know, while it might seem more convenient, there's a consequence to that. And there's a reason why people are becoming more and more unhealthy in the world, putting more weight on, not moving as much, being so sedentary. Anyone that has done embodiment practices knows that the body is constantly talking to us. The body is always wanting to talk to us, and it moves, it helps us through movement. It helps us, you know, trauma can get stuck in our body, emotions can get stuck in our body. For those emotions to clear out of our bodies, we need movement, we need to be moving, we need to be making sounds, we need to be moving our bodies, because otherwise all of that gets trapped in our bodies. So participating in the world, moving your body, think about the consequences of an easier life. A lot of it is bullshit, a lot of it is lie, and if you can strategically choose to make your life harder in some ways, you actually might get more value out of it. There's a huge movement towards people becoming homesteaders and starting up farms. And a lot of those people lived in cities, worked in corporate jobs, and realized, had this kind of an idea of like, something's not right here. And so now they're starting up homesteads, living on the land, moving to the country, or just changing their lives in cities, like growing their own food, or starting farms out in the country, and they are so much more happier for it. So there's so many people doing that around the world now, because they're realizing, especially with how messed up the world is, the easier we make it, the easier and more convenient we seem to make our lives, the more screwed up our mindsets towards life becomes. With different ideas of not understanding biology, with not understanding how the world works, how this planet works, the laws of nature, the laws of the human body, we think that we can make concepts up instead of actually surrendering to what is true, to the truth, and grounding ourselves in the truth. So that is the first one. There's consequences to each time that we try to make our lives easier, or someone tries to sell us this concept of making our lives easier. So I've finished playing with the bees. I got stung on my finger, and it's like a pinprick, like a really sharp needle going in. It's my first ever sting. But apart from that, everything I think went well, and I just wanted to get it over as quickly as possible. So for the next point, what I wanted to say in this video is the experience. So you know how in Australia, for example, people used to have their toilets outside, so it would be an outdoor dunny, and all these people would always have funny stories about frogs in the toilet and getting their bums, or snakes, or having to go out at night in the dark, and all these funny things. And then toilets moved inside, obviously, into the house. And then all those stories disappeared. But those stories were so funny to hear, and I'm sure as not funny as it was to find a snake in the toilet in the middle of the night, it still is an experience. And we made life easier by moving toilets indoors, so we don't often find snakes in the toilets these days. Although I have found a mouse, a native mouse. And when we make life easier, it might make, you know, something more convenient, but it also might subtract that experience that a harder life may have given you. I know that might be a strange example, but we'll wait for the motorbike to go by. I know that may have been a bit of a strange example, but another example is, for me, moving out into the country and kind of trying to live this self-sustaining way of life, where we grow our own food, where we live on the land, where we harvest our own honey, and you know, try to make ourselves as self-sustainable as possible, self-sufficient as possible. It's a harder way of life, but the amount of experiences that we have acquired in the process of living this harder life enriches life so much that we wouldn't want to live any other way, because of how tough and how hard it is. And every time that we get through a challenge, we just feel so much more confident in ourselves, so much more capable, and also richer because of the experience. So sometimes making life easier for yourself is actually going to rob you of a certain experience that could enrich your life. And last but not least is when you go through tough situations and have a harder life, it makes you grateful. It makes you grateful for what you do have. It makes you grateful for things that do make your life a little bit easier. It does make you grateful for the experiences that you're able to have. It makes you appreciate what you have more. I feel like sometimes when you're in the city and trying to make your life easier, got the newest technology, got the big house, got the, you know, aiming for that money and getting Uber Eats and watching TV and all of these things that are supposedly there to make your life easier, I feel like sometimes we get lazy and ungrateful for the things that we have. And by living this tougher life, and I'm referring to myself, by, you know, doing the homesteading, by growing our own food and learning all these new skills to thrive on the land and to establish a frickin' farm, it makes us appreciate, because it's so tough, because it's so challenging, it makes us appreciate the little things so much more. And I also found that, you know, the food that we have, the money that we have, the fact that we have a roof over our head when it's crazy weather, the beauty surrounding us. We're constantly noticing the sunsets and the beauty that surrounds us every single day. The animals that provide for us, the chickens that give us eggs, and meat one day. And another example for me is when I was living in the van, and I thought, to start with, it kind of went through this phase of deconditioning myself, because at first I felt homeless, like I had nothing. But about a week in, I started to realize how freeing having nothing and having to find public restrooms and having a tiny little home on wheels, a tiny little cubby house on wheels, how grateful I was to have that security of just that little van. And how grateful I was to have my tiny little fridge, because not everyone that lives in a van or in a car has it. Or how grateful I was to have the little setup and the organized little van that I had. I had everything that I needed and nothing more. And it was so challenging, because in the city I had to find parking spots, I had to find places to sleep, I had to find showers, I had to find toilets, and And there were just so many challenges with that lifestyle, but with all those challenges came confidence that I could solve problems, came feeling capable, like I don't need that much to survive, feeling like I could overcome things, feeling just grateful for the little things that I did have, and grateful for the amount of experiences that I started to acquire through those tough challenges. Hi, Jagger. And the same kind of translates. It's hard to explain, but the tougher life is, and the harder it is, the more grateful you can become for the smaller things as well. And I'm not saying that, you know, there are people that have gone through really tough things in their lives, and sometimes it's good for them to have that ease and just not have to worry about things. And everyone's on a different life journey. But I think in general, saying we want to, you know, there's even the example of giving all of our rights over to governments, you know, thinking that life will be easier if someone looks after us. When they acquire the power that we had, we stop having the power, and then they're able to manipulate us to their, you know, to whatever it is that they want, instead of what is in our best interest. So when people say wanting to live an easy life, it doesn't always mean a good life. A life that's going to make you more capable, more confident, happier in the long run. It might actually, if we constantly aim for an easy life, it can actually make us weaker, less confident, less capable, less empowered. Excuse me, Elmo. So I just wanted to make a video about that today. An easy life isn't always great. Sure, there are certain elements where there's gratitude for, you know, the things that are a bit easier for us, but don't aim for an easy life necessarily, because it can rob you. An easy life can often rob you of so much good stuff. And I'm getting distracted by the goats now, because one's chewing the camera, the other's sniffing me, and they're so cute. My cute little babies, fat little babies. You're such a fatty Elmo. Look at that tum-tum. Healthy babies. You're so happy and healthy. I love you. You're a good boy. Jagger, it's okay, buddy. Good boy. So I'm going to leave you on that. A bit of a long video, but I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, make sure, oh my god, you subscribe to the channel. And leave a like underneath the video. If you've learned anything, please let me know what you got out of this video in the comment section below. Or tell me a story about, you know, you choosing a harder route in life and what you got out of that for yourself. It could be a healing journey, you know, actually choosing to do inner work and going through the toughness of that, but then coming out the other end so much richer and grounded and so many other things. It could be a journey of self-love, you know, that's tough as well. What have you chosen in your life that has been tough but has enriched your life so much more? Tell me in the comment section. Thank you so much for being here. Subscribe. I love ya. Mwah. Stay wild.